Thanks very much for joining us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the Ivory Queen heads behind bars for 15 years. A Chinese national responsible for running a huge ivory smuggling ring is sentenced in Tanzania. Also, for the first time in its history, Burkina Faso is struggling to deal with widespread internal displacement. The extremists have become more active in the country. More than 100,000 people have been forced from their homes. Most have fled this year alone. And no hierarchy, but internal recognition for their work in the kitchen. We head to South Africa for the tiny restaurant that's been named the best in the world. But first, the former vice president of the China-Africa Business Council of Tanzania has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for smuggling an estimated $5.5 million worth of ivory between 2000 and 2004. 69-year-old Yang Fenglan was dubbed the Ivory Queen for her role in running the criminal ring. The Chinese national was charged in October 2015 along with two Tanzanian men. All were given the same sentence and ordered to pay twice the market value of the ivory they smuggled or face 2 more years in prison. Demand for ivory from China has led to a surge in poaching, and prosecutors say the country will no longer stand by as its wildlife is exploited.
The time has come for us to take our own decision as a nation. Even if we are to be blamed by others, we don't care. As long as the decision we take is for the sake of helping our country and the world in general. The sentence which has been given is in accordance with the law of the country. And I would like to warn all those who are involved in ivory smuggling, we shall take action regardless of their status. We will not allow anyone to continue benefiting from this illegal business.
Well, Emmanuel Mukundi tells us more about the scale of the smuggling ring run by Yang.
Remember, Yang lived in Tanzania a long time ago in 1970s. So she's very fluent in Kiswahili. And as you mentioned, at one time, she was the vice president of China-Africa Business Council of Tanzania. So she had a lot of link, and she was the key link between poachers from East Africa and buyers from the Asian countries. So she had a very big network here in Tanzania, in East Africa, and Kenya, and Uganda also. And the two Tanzanians whom were accused together with Yang, they were the ones who were collecting these tasks and bringing to her. As you know, she established a lot of businesses in Dar es Salaam. She had a restaurant called China Wall, and of course, she has an investment company in Tanzania. So she knows the environment very well, as she was also a graduate in Kiswahili.
So she clearly had a lot of influence in the country, but on the other hand, this also has highlighted perhaps some of the ways that Tanzania itself can deal with smuggling. Yes. How has this case affected its policies with dealing with ivory smuggling in the country?
Since the world had decided to start the campaign of anti-poaching, Tanzania has the strategy, of course, the policy of anti-poaching. The law is very strictly, and as you can see, though some of the activists were saying that the court didn't do justice because they wanted even more years beyond bars for Yang and her colleagues. But the consequence is still far from fetch because there are still, despite that Yang was the key link between the poachers and the buyers from China, still there are small poachers in Tanzania. They are still conducting the business. So it is still tricky for the government to deal with the poaching in Tanzania.
So is this case any more important than any other in terms of conservationists' hopes for change in the way that Tanzanian authorities deal with poaching?
Well, her arrest was very crucial and very important to the country and, of course, to the world. She was the ringleader African smuggling ivory. So her arrest in 2015 was the key to the case. And her arrest was that many of the conventionists wanted her to be arrested because she knew the environment very well. She had the link. She had the officials from the government, from China, from the East African region. So her arrest was very crucial for Tanzania, and it was very important, I think, all over the world, because now at least they have maintained and controlled the poaching. It's no longer as it used to be in Tanzania. Right now, even those who are still doing poaching, they are doing it very secretly, but the system is in place to tackle the problem currently in the country.
The governor of Kaduna State in Nigeria has claimed that the death toll from attacks in 8 villages around Kajuru last week has risen to over 130. Gunmen reportedly raided the area last week. However, one prominent Christian group has raised doubts that the attack ever happened. The announcement comes at a particular political sensitive time as Nigeria heads into presidential elections on Saturday. Now, for the first time in its history, Burkina Faso is facing massive internal displacement. A new UN report estimates that factional fighting and attacks by militant extremists have forced around 100,000 people from their homes. Most have fled within just the last 2 months. Our team sent us this report.
Fube's camp for the internally displaced is in the heart of the bush, 150 kilometers from Ouagadougou. About 2,500 people live here. Most fled their homes after men raided their villages. Hassanu, a father of 6, managed to escape with his family. The horrific memories of the violence still haunt him.
I was at home when I heard shots. They burned the markets, shops and bars. They ransacked everything and killed people. I saw 12 people die. We didn't have time to take our things. We escaped.
Aminata was pregnant when she fled and gave birth in the camp a week ago. For now, at least 10 other women are due to deliver their babies here. To cope with an ever-increasing population, food is carefully rationed in the camp. Everyone gets 400 grams of cereals a day, but supplies are running low.
We have food stores that have a capacity of 500 tons because we believe that's what we need to have at all times. Behind us we have no more than 10 tons. There is a huge need to stock food in the stores to help support these displaced people.
Another camp has been erected about 30 kilometers away. Around 300 children live here at the Barcelogo site. Staff offer all the support they can, but many kids have been deeply traumatized.
He told me that he doesn't want to go back to Yirugu anymore because that's where his dad was killed. I try to cheer them up, to keep them busy so they can forget about their experiences.
The UN says about 1,000 people have fled their homes every day of 2019. Across Burkina Faso, that comes to about 60,000 internally displaced people this year alone. The overall number of IDPs is estimated at around 100,000.
A tiny beach restaurant in an isolated South African fishing village has been named the best restaurant in the world. The Wolfgat opened in Paternoster 2 years ago, but has already made a huge impression with its $60 menu. It's a great turnaround for chef Kobus van der Merwe, who only started cooking seriously about 8 years ago and forages at the seaside for his fresh ingredients every day. Wolfgat is top of the new 50 Best Awards list. De Merwe says the win is a win for South Africa and the continent.
It's an amazing honor, I think, being in a room full of people that I admire. I've had so many fan moments since I've arrived. It's just really insane for me and quite a lot to process.
He promised me, actually, when he moved into the new little fisherman's building, where the restaurant is now, when we opened it the first day and I said to him, look, this is the space, this is going to be your new restaurant. He turned around and he said to me, Mama, thank you so much. I want to show you I'll become #1 in the world.
And now some life lessons from a Kenyan grandmother who's tuned into what her community needs. Literally. Shosh is a self-taught mechanic who says that lifelong learning is the key to living your best life. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
Cecilia Kimandi, who's known as Shosh, is not your ordinary mechanic. She's an 80-year-old grandmother who repairs car sound systems. People come to her because she's competent, but also because it is an unusual site in Nairobi. Shosh has some advice for the youth.
Young people must stop saying there are no jobs. Let them work hard, even if it is shining shoes, roasting maize, or just selling newspapers. They should not rely on education because many of our children are educated, but in the end, they don't find white-collar jobs.
She started out as a grocer, but later she read books about how to disassemble car sound systems and has now been doing this job for 30 years. Customers say she's at ease with the latest technology.
Whatever product you will choose, she will advise you on what is best for your car. Then she takes you into detail, starting with the least feature, whether it's USB, whether it's Bluetooth, whether it's mirror link, or whatever. Then she explains to you how to use the different features in each and every radio.
Shosh also helps a local radio station with its sound installations.
She knows about headphones, the sound. This is not a car stereo. This is Ghetto Radio Studios, and she can move around, talk to the DJ, help the DJ, assist us on techniques, and as old as she is. It means youth, young people, give your talent time, give your passion time. Don't rush for quick money, be a master of your skill.
With her children and grandchildren, Shosh has created a small empire. The energetic grandmother owns several repair shops across Nairobi and employs a total of 17 people.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.
En France 24 nos esforzamos por brindar la mejor información hecha por periodistas de Latinoamérica y del resto del mundo.
We look at how technology is shaping the future, and we show you the latest gadgets you can soon get your hands on.
نقدم لكم الاقتصاد بطريقة مختلفة، نبسط المفاهيم والمصطلحات كي تكتمل الصورة لديكم.
Aquí puedo hablar de medio ambiente, no solo de los problemas que afectan a nuestro planeta, sino también de iniciativas y soluciones que a veces no tienen espacio en televisión.
La différence sur France 24, c'est l'idée du reportage. Nos grands reportages, vous ne les verrez nulle part ailleurs.